Scooby-Doo was always something really special to me. As a franchise even, I used to play with Scooby-Doo figurines, I used to watch the cartoons, I even used to watch the movies, both live action and cartoon ones. I used to watch even the knockoff ones, like when they go to WWE, when they go to like this ranch and do cowboy stuff, another one about pirates. I used to watch Scooby-Doo like it was my life, because it basically was. Transformers, Ben 10, and Scooby-Doo. That was basically my life from like 2 years old to like 10. And even though that Transformers kind of went shit and is probably the pinnacle of lazy, shitty Hollywood movies, Ben 10 kind of, it was mediocre when he became a teenager. I liked it more when he was just a kid. It was more simplistic, and that'll be a theme with this review, simplicity. But Scooby Doo never really went bad. Sure, they maybe had like a bad episode or a bad movie, but Scooby Doo was never consistently bad. Sure, I eventually grew out of it, but I always still had a soft spot for Scooby Doo. So when I heard that there was a new Scooby Doo movie coming out and it was kind of like a rewrite, retelling of, just kind of its own little movie, so it's not a sequel or a prequel necessarily, it's just kind of its own thing. It's not a remake as well, which is pretty nice. And it was actually animated. I was actually honestly not that interested, if I'm being honest. I wasn't that interested. I just had better stuff to do, but I did keep it in the back of my mind. And eventually, I watched the movie, and wow. Scooby Doo, or should I say Scoob, is a movie so polarizing that it brought me back to doing movie reviews on YouTube. The movie starts off with Scooby Doo in like this Greek little restaurant, and he's stolen some food. Classic Scooby Doo shenanigans. Then a cop sees him, he chases him on a pedal bike. Then we're introduced to Shaggy, not alongside Scoob, but just on his own. And the movie has a pretty funny joke of where it shows like different songs on like his Spotify and they're all about being lonely. It's kind of like a self-aware joke, and I think that it's one of the self-aware jokes in this movie that it gets right. Shaggy listens to this podcast and it tells him to go make some friends, so he makes some friends with fucking piles of sand, and then Scooby Doo's actually hiding in one of those piles of sand. Then eventually they meet up. Shaggy shares his sandwich with Scooby. Scooby shares his giant meat thing that he got from the Greek store. And yeah, it's a pretty charming, fast-paced intro, and I think that that's what the movie needed. It needed something just short and sweet. Then the cop who was chasing Scooby Doo comes up. Then Shaggy stands up for Scooby, and the cop's like, "If he's your dog, then what's his name?" And then Shaggy looks at some Scooby snacks and he's like, "Scooby Dooby Doo." And then the cop just goes along with it. It's a very short and a very sweet introduction, and I think that that's a very, very good thing, because most of us already know the story of Scooby-Doo, and even if you don't, it shouldn't be something that like the movie really focuses on. But no, I really like the brief, simple, charming start. It's super sweet, and honestly, it's actually a great introduction to the movie. I could believe that this is exactly how it went. So yeah, really good start. Probably not flawless. It was a little bit generic, but again, it's not something I'm going to complain about. So then Shaggy takes Scooby to his house, he gives him a chain, and basically their friendship is anew. Then it cuts to Halloween, and basically they meet Fred, Velma, and Daphne. Shaggy gets bullied by these two guys and gets his candy thrown into some haunted house. They investigate the haunted house. They find a ghost in there, and it's on a wire, but it's also a man inside like the ghost costume. So why is he just connected to a wire? Why is he not, you know, what? Why is he connected to a wire if he's inside the ghost costume? But no, it looks very reminiscent of the old Scooby and Shaggy antics. They're kind of away from the entire thing, hiding, and eventually they find out that he's been stealing. Whilst Velma, Daphne, and Fred all work together to take down the ghost, and eventually they caught the perp. And he doesn't say the famous line. Kind of glad and kind of not glad, because it is It's cliche, but like it's part of the series. Come on. Next, we get this nice transition from when they were kids, solving kind of mysteries and doing Scooby-Doo antics, and then it shows them as adults. And during that transition, it's got kind of the same animated style and the same character movement, you know, where characters jump up and like they're running in the air for like a little bit and then they dash. It's very reminiscent of the old Scooby-Doo movies, which is something I appreciate immensely. But basically, it cuts the Scooby Gang at a restaurant. Stuff happens. They talk about the future of the Mystery Inc. Simon Cowell makes an appearance, and oh my fucking god, it's so. Fuck, I hate this. Okay, so Simon Cowell wants to buy Mystery Inc. That's the only reasonable explanation I know for why he's there. He's gonna turn into like a franchise. He says that Scooby and Shaggy are useless and hold the team back because they're Scooby and Shaggy. And he gives everyone defined roles, and he makes the movie so much more worse. It's not even a guy with Simon Cowell's voice, and you know, he just looks different. No, it's like legitimately Simon Cowell. And I just hate celebrity appearances in movies because movies never really do it properly. I don't mind the occasional celebrity cameo, but when it's more of a self-aware joke, it so doesn't work. In my opinion, just like ever really, I just don't like it. It doesn't make the film better. I'm not gonna judge this movie more highly if it has a fucking celebrity reference, especially when they're playing themselves. And it's even worse when they're acting and playing as themselves, with, you know, the same sort of mannerisms and attitudes. And he genuinely, like, actually makes the movie worse. He gives everyone, like, these defined roles. He says to Fred, like, oh, you're the brains and the brawn. Daphne, you're, like, the people person. Basically, she's hot. Velma is, like, the smart, shy person. But Shaggy and Scooby, what are they? What's their purpose? Which is a fine concept. But when it's done by Simon Cowell, and, like, it's a recurring joke, or not even a joke, it's like an actual plot point in both the character development and the story, it just makes the movie so much more worse. And it feels like it's just trying to appeal to a larger audience, you know. Simon Cowell! We got Simon Cowell! They even reference fucking Britain's Got Talent, is that the show? Or Something's Got Talent? That's not a reference, that's basically just sponsorship. Now you'd probably expect me to go on to like the plot after the intro, but I'm gonna, you know, break this up a little bit. I'm gonna talk about the comedy of this movie. No, comedy is not subjective. What you find funny is subjective. You can't just have bad jokes. Generally, it's in the way that it's presented, comedic timing, the place. You're not gonna tell a fucking knock-knock joke at a funeral, okay? Yeah, what makes you laugh is subjective. Some people laugh to like political satire. Some people laugh at knock-knock jokes. Some people laugh at the chicken cross the road jokes. That is subjective. You can just have bad comedy. And in films specifically, you can have lazy comedy. The lowest denominator of comedy. And you want to know what that is? Reference humor. Reference humor is best used when it's done very subtly and in very small doses. It's kind of like cliches, because they basically are cliches. They're overused. And this movie just cranks it up to 11. It's very safe, and that's fine. I'm not expecting them to talk about apolitical dark humor shit, but it's just so often in the movie. I'd say that only 50% of the jokes land, and only 10% are actually good jokes, or at least above average. And this really dampens the movie, because when you make so many jokes in your movie, and then only like half of them land, and it really, really gets on my nerves when you spit out a new joke every minute, and I have to basically play Russian roulette to see if the joke actually even makes sense. Because you can't even say, oh, I'm just too old for this stuff. I'm 15, and some of the jokes that they make, and some of the references that they make, no kid
is gonna understand that, which is so weird because this movie clearly panders to the younger audience. Scooby-Doo is a thing mainly for kids, so why would you have Simon Cowell? My younger brother, who was like 10 years old, was watching this with us, and he was like, who's Simon Cowell? And his like the target audience that they should be going for and that they are trying to go for. Now we're gonna continue on with the story, but we just need to address something else. Especially with the Simon Cowell scene. Yeah, I know. It really pisses me off that much. That scene really destroys the movie. But it's that the Scooby Gang takes it way too literally, and it ruins any character that they could have had. You're basically told what their character... No, you're not even basically told. You're literally told what their character is. So any interesting motives are basically just thrown out the window. Shaggy and Scooby are kind of devoid of this because it already established that at the start. And it kind of did in the Halloween scene for everyone else. There's having a kids movie and, you know, trying to give clues to certain things, and, you know, sometimes you do need to point stuff out. But you're just pointing out what each of the characters are, and again, they take it way too literally. Like, there's actually a moment in the movie where Fred is just like, I'm the big, strong, punchy guy. The Fred that I remember... God, that sounds so weird. The Fred that I remember was, yeah, he was, you know, strong physically, I guess, because no one else really filled that role in, but he was actually a pretty smart, well-rounded guy. Some iterations had him like fall in love with traps. Like, I remember that like Mystery Cove show had him like fall in love with traps and basically had a sexual fetish for traps. But I think a more agreed on general iteration of him is that he really likes a Scooby van. And you know, that's fine, because it's just a kid's movie. Have the quirky stuff, I don't care, as long as it makes sense. However, though, Fred in this movie thinks that he's basically Brick from Borderlands. Everything can be solved if you punch it hard enough. He's just kind of like the dumb, brawny guy. And then Daphne, in this movie, she's kind of the same. She's like the popular, sort of, influence, hot girl that's good with people. However, though, where's her unique traits? Where's the fact of how she loves Fred? Velma's kind of the shy nerd, and honestly, she hasn't really changed. There have been some versions of her where, like, she likes Shaggy. So Velma's basically kind of the same. She's basically on the green. Shaggy and Scooby, they're done pretty well, actually. Their love for food isn't kind of upfront. You know, these guys love food. They will just eat food on sight. And because of the lack of a mystery, you kind of can't show the side of Shaggy and Scooby where they're kind of cowardice. And instead, the movie presents it in a different way. But first, before I get onto that, we'll just quickly blaze through up until the part that I talk about. Basically, Shaggy and Scooby get depressed at Simon Cowell, and then they go bowling, and then the bowling pins turn into machines, and these machines are owned by the mega villain. Oops, spoilers. And then the machines attack them, and Scooby-Doo antics pursue, you know, classic stuff. You know, Shaggy pretending to be someone else and trying to trick the person that they're chasing. I really, really, really love that scene. It's really reminiscent of the old Scooby and Shaggy. It seems like that the people that created this were actually fans of Scooby and Shaggy, or at least did their research. The trick doesn't work as usual, then they get chased into an alleyway, and then they get abducted, and then anal fucked and probed by aliens. Okay, fine. The two last things I said weren't true, but they do get abducted. But not by aliens, by... oh my fucking god. So yeah, Mystery Inc., Shaggy and Scooby, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scoob is now a fucking superhero movie. A concept about young adults, teenagers, solving mysteries is now a shitty superhero flick. I don't know why companies, whenever they do a rewrite or a retelling of a movie, or even a sequel, but actually no, a sequel makes more sense, so scrap that. A rewrite or remake even, I don't know why they think that they need to increase the scale. Yeah, sure, in a sequel it kind of makes more sense, you know. A sequel should do everything that the past movie did, but better, whilst adding its own unique flavor. But in a retelling or a rewrite, you just need to reach the normal standards. But I don't know why they always need to increase the scale, and they need to add a pop culture thing or something that's really famous with pop culture, you know, something that everyone knows. Transformers did this. They got fucking dinosaurs. Then they got like King Arthur. And with Scooby-Doo, they decided that superheroes and Scooby-Doo and make it so that we gotta save the world from a literal stereotype of a villain. I don't even have a problem with it being superheroes. Or I do have a problem with it being superheroes. Because amateur filmmakers, like the people that made this movie, will use superhero tropes in a Scooby-Doo movie. Now all that we need is a Hello Kitty island and a fucking Batman crossover. I don't mind the concept of it being superheroes. What I do mind is how it takes over the movie. It literally from like, I guess, first third of the movie, you're like, it's built up your excitement. You know, you're expecting like a really kick-ass movie about just Shaggy, Scooby, Mystery Inc., boom, adventures, and then it just turns into a superhero movie. And it stays like that. Also, there's dinosaurs in this. Also, there's Dick Dastardly and Muttley. Also, there's Cerberus in this. Yeah, you know, the dog from the underworld. Also, there's Alexander the Great's vault in this. This is a kid's movie. This is what I mean by that. No one will understand the references. I didn't even know who Dick Dastardly and Muttley were until my dad pointed it out. And then I had to do the research for this review. And then there's just a supervillain, and oh yeah, the supervillain's just revealed randomly. There's no segue into him, it just basically cuts to the supervillain. So there's no mystery. We already know who the guy is. There's no mystery in a Scooby-Doo movie. Let that sink in for a second. There's no mystery in a franchise who is known for their mysteries. What the fuck? And there's so many action scenes as well. Like, there's actually no mystery. All the mystery scenes and all like the are now replaced with action scenes. It's not action, you know, like them being chased. It's like actual action, like a superhero movie. Our superheroes consist of Captain Fuck-Off Falcon, Robo-Dog, and some random bitch that I swear wasn't even a figurine, they just had her in. Basically, Captain Falcon guy he's like the son of the OG Captain Falcon, and now he needs to live up to his father's legacy. But instead of even trying to do that, he just focuses on his social media more. It's kind of like the dumb superhero protagonist trope. Then we have Robo-Dog, who's like the focus on the mission kind of guy. You know, he was around with Captain Falcon's father, and you know, he's like, oh, your dad would be proud of you and stuff, and Robo-Dog just cares about being a team, but then Captain Falcon's just kind of like the loose cannon. And then we have random lady who also only focuses on the mission. It's kind of the replacement, or the symbolic replacement for Captain Falcon guy. So yeah, basically Scooby-Doo becomes a superhero because he's special, because the villain said that Scooby-Doo's special. Also, they encounter the villain in a theme park because there's 3 keys that need to open up the portal, so then Dick Dastardly can see his pet friend Muttley because he's trapped inside of the underworld, which is placed at Alexander the Great's vault, and Alexander the Great built the vault portal thing. What the fuck is this movie? I've watched everything. I've watched like the WWE spinoffs. I've watched the fucking live action movies. I've even watched like Mystery Island. I don't think I've met a more convoluted concept and a more convoluted plot for a Scooby-Doo film in my entire life. Something I loved about the Scooby-Doo series is how simplistic it is. And in this movie, their friendship, they like split up because Scooby would rather be a superhero and go do fucking superhero stuff and go with Captain Fuckface Falcon than be with his friend. And then Shaggy's kind of just an emotional fucktard because he's like, oh, Scoob, but we're friends, and even though I said that you can take off the collar that I said that you can never take off, I didn't think that you were actually gonna do it. Oh my god, this is the end of the world. I'm gonna go kill myself now. So anyways, moving on. Wait a minute. I think I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's right. You wanna know what happened to the rest of the Scooby gang? So Dick Dastardly finds out about Scooby-Doo's friends and Shaggy's friends. So then he goes out to take them hostage or something like that. So they just appear in the movie for like 5 minutes in total. And as adults, they appear for even less. The mystery gang finds out that Shaggy and Scooby have been abducted, and then they go on their merry way to try and find them. And then Dick Dastardly dresses up as a super hot MILF police officer and pulls over Fred, and Fred's like, oh yeah, baby, I'll pull over. Hey, baby, how you doing? And then the police officer reveals that was Dick Dastardly, and then they abduct them and stuff because there was a fucking robot in the mystery van and was stalking them all along, and that's how he found them. Oh my god, this is so shit. So yeah, the mystery gang gets captured, and their characters are so shit, so I don't even care about them anyways, especially Fred. Fuck Fred. And basically they get captured, they get put into a jail cell, then one of the robots who was sexually abused by Dick Dastardly frees them because Daphne's the people's person and she knows how to get into feel. The robot frees them, and then they just walk into a room of Dick Dastardly's stuff, and then it reveals like, oh, I'm trying to get the keys to save my friend Muttley. And I quite like the subtle humor. This is another one of the good jokes. So, you know, they've opened up the portal, and then Dick Dastardly tells Muttley, oh, you can go in, and this is all silent because he's narrating over this, so you can't really hear the characters actually speak in the, I guess, flashback or in the memory. Dick Dastardly saying like, oh, go in, Muttley, you go first, and Muttley's like, bruh. And then as his narrating is saying like, oh, Muttley sacrificed himself, and I told him don't do it, but he did it anyways, the mad lad. When in the actual flashback, what actually happened was Dick Dastardly was telling Muttley, go, no, come on, you go first. Yes, you go first. I sound like fucking Lego Smeagol. So yeah, that's another one of the really good jokes. And guess what? It's not a reference. So then our heroes set off to find the third great key to the great vault that Alexander the Great built. So they go to the center of the earth, basically. They rip off Ice Age 3. Yeah, there's dinosaurs there. There's just a caveman guy. He's apparently from the same show, like the same franchise as Dick Dastardly. It's like Captain Caveman or something like that. So Captain Caveman's like, hey, we got the third key. YOLO, fight me. Scooby and Captain Falcon guy's like, yo, this can be my big moment if I can beat this little pipsqueak. It's just a hairy fluff ball. And Shaggy isn't there because Shaggy and Scooby, well, they're no longer friends because Scooby's a superhero, and Shaggy don't like that shit, so he stayed on the super ship. Oh my god. And then Fred comes out of nowhere on this random island in the middle of the fucking earth, but it's actually Dick Dastardly because he cloned himself as Fred, or dressed up as Fred, and he used Fred to trick the fucking Shaggy into doing stuff, and stuff happens. Basically, Dick Dastardly gets a third key. I'm not even gonna go over this shit. It's just so boring. It's so stupid. Then he, kicks out the Scooby gang and just leaves them in the center of the earth. He also destroys their ship. And then Shaggy's like, oh my god, this is all my fault, guys. Then Shaggy, in like 30 seconds after saying that, just realizes that he can be better and he needs to move on. Okay, cool. Now can we actually just move on to the story? Oh yeah, sure. The whole fiasco that we had of how we couldn't get here, Robodog's got this. He can just get the mystery van, put everyone inside the mystery van, and then Robodog can just turn into a fucking commercial jet and just fly us out of there. Oh, it's all fine. So then they go to Greece, where they open up Alexander the Great's vault. Cerberus comes out, and then there's a fight scene. There's a fucking fight scene. Dick Dastardly finds Muttley. Fred uses the carcass of the Scooby van to turn into Captain America, and that's the reference I was talking about with his bandana. Basically puts on his orange bandana, picks up like the front wheel of the Scooby van, and then uses that as a shield, and then he says a Captain America Endgame quote, or parodies that, and then he gets immediately fucked. He just gets fucked. Then the robots that Dick Dastardly had as minions, Scooby and Shaggy turn them into bowling balls, reminiscing of the bowling ball scene at the very start of the movie where they first found them. Robo-Dog does some stuff. Captain Falcon realizes his potential. Daphne and Velma really don't do much. Then they make Cerberus, then they like roll him back into the vault. But the only way to properly close the vault is if Scooby or Shaggy stays inside the vault to keep it closed. So then they have this emotional scene where Scooby volunteers to go, but then Shaggy volunteers instead. Then Shaggy's stuck in there. Then it's actually a decently sad moment, but I think that it could have been better if it wasn't just part of a shit movie. Shaggy just comes out of nowhere because Alexander the Great wouldn't separate himself from his dog. Oh yeah, by the way, did I mention that Scooby's actually the last descendant of Alexander the Great's dog, known as the species Pretus? I don't know if this is actually canon. I feel like that this is kind of canon, but it was just kind of like a fun fact. I have heard of that before though. But yeah, basically, they get Dick Dastardly. He's found Muttley, and then they pull off the mask for Dick Dastardly, and boom, it's actually Simon Cowell. This entire time, I'm not shitting. It's Simon Cowell this entire time. Plot twist, actually, it wasn't Simon Cowell, or it was. They pull the Simon Cowell mask one more time, and then boom, it's actually Dick Dastardly pretending to be Simon Cowell, who's pretending to be Dick Dastardly. And then the actual Dick Dastardly says, oh, no one's ever fallen for the double mask. I mean, that's not true. I've seen it before in the live-action remakes. I would have loved it, though, if they tried to actually take off the second Dick Dastardly mask, and, like, that's his actual face, like, they're just pulling on his hair, and he's like, ow. Even though that is basically just a rip-off of the live-action. I wanted just to have one more funny gag. But yeah, basically the movie finishes, they're all friends, and there's a dance scene at the end. Who doesn't love a dance scene? Captain Falcon doesn't even become a real hero, he just becomes a DJ. Mystery Inc. get their own office, and then they have the robot minions, and then people come up to them and say, oh, there's a mystery about, oh, time for a sequel. Hope this thing never gets a sequel. And yeah, that's basically the movie. My thoughts on the film are so torn. It's a movie that just doesn't know what it wants to be. You can't just have Scooby-Doo and superheroes, they're too different. And even if you do, you can only have for like small scale knockoffs. And they animate Shaggy and Scooby kind of in the same way that the old ones did, you know. Again, as I said, they jump up, they like run around, you know, it shows them, you know, running from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen. Watching Shaggy and Scooby, they're probably the best part of the film. Sure, the little friendship breakup scene is kind of cliche and a little bit rushed and honestly just a bit stupid, but I think that they actually just carry the film. I don't mind the person that played Shaggy. I think they did actually a pretty good job. I think they got the original guy for Scooby, which is amazing. The references and the humor just made this movie so boring. It's a average movie to watch once, but it's one of those movies where you can't watch it again. A good movie is a movie that in even like a week's time, even in a month's time, you'll go, hey, you know what, I want to watch this again. And it's not like a mystery, well, it's not a mystery at all. It's not like a mystery thriller crime movie where it's like you can't watch it again because, you know, everything's already spoiled and you know everything. But yeah, this is a movie I would never watch again and probably never want to watch. I watched it twice for this review and it was just so bad. And watching on the first go, it was just so disappointing. I'm disappointed. That's what this movie is. It's disappointing. It's a shame that Hollywood feels like that they need to increase the scale and to merge with something else. So yeah, that's where I end on this review. This movie gets a 4.5 out of 10. It's so painfully mediocre, and it just panders to a completely different audience. And the worst part is because that audience is so big and so prominent, kids are going to remember this as a superhero movie with a Scooby-Doo crossover, when instead it's a Scooby-Doo movie with a superhero crossover. I'm glad though that they did actually invent their own superheroes. At least they actually did that. At least they didn't just do like a Batman super. If it was like that, I wouldn't have watched the movie. I wouldn't have even done this review. This movie wasn't the only reason why I started doing movie reviews again on YouTube. It was a very special comment. So yeah, Morgan Mac 12, if you do see this video again, I hope you enjoy it. And anyone else who watches this video as well, hope you enjoy it. This took me a decent while to actually do, so you can leave a like, you can leave a dislike, and you can tell me what you think in the comments. I'm always open up to criticism, good or bad, as long as it's fair. You can also check out my 1917 50-minute review on the film in the description. Hopefully this is the official start to a long and prosperous YouTube hobby, because I am actually dedicated to doing this. I'm inspired to make. Also tell me in the comments what videos you want to see and what movies you want me to review. So you're probably wondering though why I put Film Mediocrity in the title. It's a series I started not even with my 1917 review, it was with something even before that, but it's no longer on my channel because of reasons, and it's different to what you think. But basically it's my Film M series. Basically it's broken down into 3 parts. We have Film Mastery, which is my 1917 review, Film Mediocrity, which is like this movie and like the previous movie I made before 1917, and then Film Madness. Basically I did that so then you, the viewer, can kind of get a general idea of what my opinions are on the film, even before you've clicked on the video. So they generally have no specific order, and when I make them, I'll just watch a movie or someone recommend a movie to me, and I'll fit into one of those categories. But no, really, have a great time everybody. It was a blast to make this video. Oh yeah, and sorry for the terrible fucking audio at the start of the video. I'm recording this on my PS4 actually, surprising enough. And I was basically using a different controller, so same headset, just different controller, and it made it sound completely different. Never even knew that that was a thing. Sorry again for the still shitty audio quality. And yeah, if you're wondering what editing software I use, it's Shotcut. Have a great time.